Janitor mom secretly cleans son's trophy at school. At graduation, the object reveals a secret no one expected. Hello, welcome, leave a like, subscribe, activate notifications, and enjoy this story. In a small-town high school, a devoted single mother's nightly ritual of polishing her son's trophy takes an extraordinary turn, unearthing a long-buried secret that will change their lives forever. As the graduation ceremony approaches, the Gleaming Award becomes the key to unlocking a past shrouded in mystery and a future filled with unexpected possibilities. The fluorescent lights flickered to life in the empty hallways of Millbrook High School, casting a harsh glow on the worn linoleum floors. It was just past midnight, and Maria Gonzalez, the night janitor, pushed her cleaning cart with practiced ease, her footsteps echoing in the silence. At 42, Maria's face bore the gentle lines of a life filled with hard work and quiet determination. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, a few strands escaping to frame her kind eyes. As she made her way down the main corridor, Maria's gaze lingered on the trophy case that dominated the wall. Behind the smudged glass, rows of golden figures stood in silent tribute to the school's achievements. But Maria only had eyes for one, a modest basketball trophy with Michael Gonzalez, Most Improved Player, engraved on its base. With a furtive glance over her shoulder, Maria pulled out a small key from her pocket. The lock clicked open, and she carefully lifted the trophy from its place. Her calloused hands cradled it with a tenderness reserved for precious things as she began her nightly ritual. Using a soft cloth, Maria polished every inch of the trophy, her movements slow and deliberate. As she worked, her mind wandered to her son, Michael. At 18, he was the spitting image of his father, tall, with a shock of unruly black hair and a smile that could light up a room. Basketball had been his salvation, a way to channel his grief and anger after his father's sudden death 5 years ago. "Oh, Robert," Maria whispered to the empty hallway, her voice barely audible. If only you could see him now. The memory of her late husband still brought a sharp pang to her chest. Robert Gonzalez had been the love of her life, a man whose laughter could fill a room and whose dreams seemed boundless. His death in a car accident had left a void in their lives that Maria had struggled to fill. As she polished the nameplate, Maria's thoughts drifted to the upcoming graduation ceremony. In just 3 days, Michael would walk across the stage, diploma in hand, ready to embark on a new chapter of his life. Pride swelled in her heart, mingled with a bittersweet ache. Her boy was growing up, and soon he'd be off to college on a partial basketball scholarship. Maria was so lost in her reverie that she almost missed it, a tiny irregularity in the surface of the trophy's base. Her cloth caught on something, and she leaned in closer, squinting in the dim light. There, almost imperceptible, was a hairline crack running along the edge of the nameplate. Curiosity piqued, Maria gently pressed her thumb against the crack. To her surprise, the nameplate shifted slightly. Heart racing, she carefully pried at the edge, and with a soft click, the plate came loose in her hand. Maria's breath caught in her throat. There, hidden in a small recess beneath the nameplate, was a folded piece of paper. With trembling fingers, she extracted it, unfolding the yellowed sheet to reveal a message written in a familiar scrawl. "To my son, on the day you become a man, the greatest trophy you'll ever earn is the love you give to others. Remember, true strength lies not in victory, but in how you face defeat. I've left you a legacy, Michael. Look beneath the surface, and you'll find the truth. I love you always, Dad." Tears welled up in Maria's eyes as she read and reread the words. Questions tumbled through her mind. How long had this message been hidden? What did Robert mean by a legacy? And most importantly, why hadn't he told her about it? The sound of a door slamming somewhere in the building snapped Maria back to reality. Hastily, she refolded the note and slipped it into her pocket. With shaking hands, she reattached the nameplate and returned the trophy to its place in the case, locking it securely. As she pushed her cart down the hall, Maria's mind raced. Should she tell Michael about the note right away, or wait until after graduation? And what about this mysterious legacy Robert had mentioned? One thing was certain. The secret hidden within that trophy had the power to change everything. As the night wore on, Maria continued her cleaning duties, but her thoughts remained fixed on the message from beyond the grave and the tantalizing promise of a truth yet to be uncovered. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the windows of the small apartment Maria and Michael called home. The aroma of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air as Maria stood at the stove, spatula in hand, her mind still reeling from last night's discovery. "Morning, Mom." Michael's cheerful voice preceded him into the kitchen. He planted a quick kiss on her cheek before reaching for a piece of bacon. At 6'2", he towered over Maria, his lean frame a testament to countless hours on the basketball court. Maria swatted his hand playfully. "Patience, Mijo. Breakfast is almost ready." As they sat down to eat, Maria studied her son's face, searching for traces of Robert. The same strong jawline, the same crinkles around the eyes when he smiled. Her heart ached with the weight of the secret she now carried. "You okay, Mom?" Michael asked, his fork pausing halfway to his mouth. "You seem, I don't know, distracted or something." Maria forced a smile. "Just thinking about your graduation. I can't believe my baby boy is all grown up." Michael rolled his eyes good-naturedly. "Mom, come on. I'll always be your baby boy, even when I'm old and gray." As they finished breakfast, Maria's resolve strengthened. She would wait until after the graduation ceremony to tell Michael about the note. Let him enjoy these last few days of high school without the burden of unanswered questions. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Maria juggled her night shifts at the school with last-minute graduation preparations. She hemmed Michael's gown, baked his favorite cookies for the reception, and fought back tears every time she thought about her son leaving for college in the fall. On the morning of the graduation, Maria stood in front of her bedroom mirror, smoothing down her best dress, a simple navy blue number she'd bought years ago for a cousin's wedding. Her fingers trembled slightly as she fastened a small gold locket around her neck, a gift from Robert on their 10th anniversary. "Mom, have you seen my wow?" Michael stopped short in the doorway, his eyes widening. "Mom, you look beautiful." Maria felt a blush creep up her cheeks. "Thank you, Mijo. Now, what were you looking for?" "My dress shoes. I can't find them anywhere." Together, they searched the apartment, finally locating the shoes tucked under a pile of laundry. As Michael slipped them on, Maria felt a lump form in her throat. In that moment, he looked so much like Robert on their wedding day, young, handsome, and full of promise. The drive to Millbrook High was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. As they pulled into the parking lot, Michael reached over and squeezed his mother's hand. "Thanks, Mom," he said softly, "for everything." Maria blinked back tears. "I'm so proud of you, Michael. Your father would be too." A shadow passed over Michael's face at the mention of Robert, but he quickly smiled. "I know, Mom. I wish he could be here today. If only you knew how close he is," Maria thought, the note burning a hole in her purse. The gymnasium was a sea of blue and gold, the school colors. Excited chatter filled the air as students adjusted their caps and gowns. Parents snapped photos, and teachers herded everyone into place. Maria found a seat near the front, her heart swelling with pride as she watched Michael take his place with his classmates. As the ceremony began, Maria's mind wandered. She thought about the years of sacrifice, the long nights working while Michael slept, the pennies saved for his college fund, and through it all, the constant ache of Robert's absence. Principal Harriet Thompson's voice cut through Maria's reverie. "And now, it is my great pleasure to present this year's valedictorian award. This student has shown remarkable improvement, not just in academics but in character and leadership. The recipient of this year's award is Michael Gonzalez." A gasp escaped Maria's lips as the crowd erupted in applause. She watched, stunned, as Michael made his way to the stage, his face a mix of shock and elation. Principal Thompson handed Michael a large trophy, its golden surface gleaming under the gymnasium lights. "In addition to this award," she announced, "Millbrook High is honored to present Michael with a full scholarship to State University, generously donated by an anonymous benefactor." The room spun around Maria. A full scholarship? Anonymous benefactor? Her mind raced, connecting dots she hadn't even known existed. Could this be the legacy Robert had mentioned in his note? As Michael accepted the trophy, his eyes found Maria in the crowd. The look they shared was one of pure joy, tinged with a hint of something else. A shared understanding that this moment was bigger than either of them had imagined. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. Before Maria knew it, caps were flying through the air, and the class of 2024 was officially graduated. She made her way through the crowd, accepting congratulations from other parents and teachers, her eyes searching for Michael. She found him near the refreshment table, surrounded by friends and well-wishers. When he saw her approaching, he excused himself and enveloped her in a bear hug. "Mom, can you believe it?" he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "A full scholarship. It's like Dad's looking out for us or something." Maria's heart skipped a beat. If only he knew how right he was. She pulled back, looking up into her son's shining eyes. "Michael, there's something I need to tell you. Something about your father and that trophy." As the celebration continued around them, Maria led Michael to a quiet corner of the gymnasium. The time had come to reveal the secret that had been hidden for so long, and to uncover the truth about Robert Gonzalez's final gift to his son. The corner of the gymnasium felt like an island of calm amidst the sea of celebration. Maria's hands trembled as she reached into her purse, pulling out the folded note she discovered in Michael's trophy. She took a deep breath, her eyes meeting her son's curious gaze. "Michael, sweetheart, there's something I found. Something your father left for you," she began, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael's brow furrowed in confusion. "Dad? What do you mean?" Maria unfolded the yellowed paper, smoothing it gently before handing it to her son. "I found this hidden inside your basketball trophy. It's from your father." Time seemed to stand still as Michael read the note, his eyes widening with each line. When he finished, he looked up at Maria, his face a storm of emotions: shock, confusion, and a glimmer of hope. "Mom, I don't understand," he said, his voice cracking. How long has this been in my trophy?" Maria shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I only found it a few days ago, Mijo. I was cleaning your trophy, like I do every night, and I noticed something odd about the base. That's when I found the note." Michael's eyes narrowed. "Every night? You've been cleaning my trophy every night?" A flush crept up Maria's neck. Yes, I wanted to make sure it always looked its best. It meant so much to you, and I thought your father would have wanted to keep it shining." For a moment, Michael was quiet, processing this new information. Then, without warning, he pulled his mother into a tight embrace. "Oh, Mom," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You've done so much for me, more than I ever realized." As they pulled apart, Michael's eyes fell back to the note in his hand. "But what does this mean? Dad talks about a legacy, about looking beneath the surface. And now this mysterious scholarship. Do you think they're connected?" Maria nodded slowly. "I think they must be, Mijo. The timing is too perfect to be a coincidence." Just then, a voice called out across the gym. "Michael, there you are." They turned to see Coach Martinez making his way through the crowd, a broad smile on his face. As he approached, he clapped Michael on the shoulder. "Congratulations, son. Valedictorian and a full ride to state." Your old man would be bursting with pride. Michael and Maria exchanged a look. "Coach," Michael began hesitantly, "do you know anything about this scholarship? About who might have donated it?" Coach Martinez's smile faltered for a moment, a flicker of something. Recognition? Worry? Passing across his face. He cleared his throat. "Well, now, that's not really my department. But I do know it's been in place for a few years, waiting for the right student. Guess that turned out to be you." As the coach excused himself to congratulate other students, Michael turned back to his mother, his eyes alight with determination. "Mom, we need to figure this out. Dad left us a puzzle to solve, and I think that new trophy might be the key. Maria nodded, her own curiosity and excitement growing. You're right, Mijo, but let's not rush. This is your graduation day. We should celebrate with your friends, take pictures. We can start our investigation tomorrow. Michael agreed reluctantly, and they rejoined the festivities. But as they mingled with classmates and teachers, accepting congratulations and posing for photos, both mother and son found their thoughts constantly drifting back to the mystery at hand. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across their small apartment, Maria and Michael sat at the kitchen table. Between them lay the objects at the center of their budding investigation. The old basketball trophy, the new valedictorian award, and Robert's note. Okay, Michael said, his tone serious. Let's approach this logically. Dad's note talks about looking beneath the surface. We found his message under the nameplate of my old trophy. So maybe... He trailed off, reaching for the new, larger valedictorian trophy. With careful fingers, he examined every inch of its surface, looking for any sign of irregularity. Maria watched, her heart pounding, as Michael's fingers found a small indentation on the underside of the base. With a soft click, a hidden compartment sprang open. Inside, they found a small, ornate key and another folded piece of paper. Michael's hands shook as he unfolded the note, reading aloud. Congratulations, my son. If you're reading this, it means you've not only graduated but excelled beyond my wildest dreams. The key you found opens a safety deposit box at Millbrook National Bank. Box number 1824, the year your mother and I were married. There, you'll find the answers you seek and the legacy I've left for you. Remember, Michael, true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. I'm so proud of you, Dad. Silence fell over the kitchen as the weight of Robert's words sank in. Maria reached across the table, clasping Michael's hand in hers. Oh, Robert, she whispered, a mixture of love and exasperation in her voice, always with the mysteries and the grand gestures. Michael looked up, his eyes shining with unshed tears. Mom, did you know anything about this? About a safety deposit box? Maria shook her head. No, Mijo, your father, he always liked his surprises. But a safety deposit box? That must have been something he set up before. She trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. Before the accident, Michael finished softly. He squeezed his mother's hand. Mom, we have to go to the bank first thing tomorrow. We need to know what Dad left for us. As they prepared for bed that night, both Maria and Michael found sleep elusive. Their minds raced with questions and possibilities. What could Robert have left in that safety deposit box? How did it connect to the mysterious scholarship? And most importantly, how would this long-hidden legacy change their lives? In the darkness of her bedroom, Maria clutched her pillow, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. Joy at Michael's achievements, curiosity about Robert's secret, and a gnawing worry about what tomorrow might bring. As she finally drifted off to sleep, one thought echoed in her mind. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. The next morning dawned bright and clear, a stark contrast to the tumultuous emotions swirling within Maria and Michael. They ate breakfast in near silence, the weight of anticipation hanging heavy in the air. As they drove to Millbrook National Bank, the streets of their small town seemed different somehow, as if the revelation of Robert's secret had cast everything in a new light. The bank was a stately brick building in the heart of downtown, its large windows reflecting the morning sunlight. As they walked through the imposing front doors, Maria felt a flutter of nerves in her stomach. She'd never been in this part of the bank before. Her dealings had always been limited to the teller windows and the occasional meeting about her modest savings account. At the reception desk, they were greeted by a friendly older woman with silver hair and kind eyes. Good morning. How can I help you today? Michael stepped forward, his voice steady despite the tension Maria could see in his shoulders. We need to access a safety deposit box, please. Number 1824. The receptionist's eyebrows rose slightly. Of course. May I see some identification? As Michael produced his driver's license, Maria couldn't help but notice the receptionist's reaction. There was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, quickly masked by professional courtesy. She wondered how many people in town might have been keeping Robert's secrets all these years. They were led to a private room, where a bank employee brought them the safety deposit box. As the employee left, closing the door behind him, Maria and Michael stared at the metal container that held the answers they sought. "You should do it, Mijo," Maria said softly. "Your father left this for you." With a nod, Michael inserted the key and turned it. The lock clicked open, and he slowly lifted the lid. Inside, they found several items: a thick envelope, a small velvet pouch, and a framed photograph they'd never seen before. Michael reached for the envelope first, breaking the seal with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter, written in Robert's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Michael and Maria, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you, and for that, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to leave you, but life doesn't always go according to plan. I hope that by now, Michael, you've graduated high school and are ready to embark on the next chapter of your life. What I'm about to tell you may come as a shock, but please know that everything I've done has been out of love for both of you. Years ago, before I met your mother, I was involved in a startup tech company. We had a revolutionary idea, but no capital to develop it. I took a risk and invested everything I had, and then some. Paid off beyond our wildest dreams. The company was bought out for millions, and I suddenly found myself wealthy beyond imagination. But money changes people, and I saw how it affected my partners, my friends. I didn't want that life. I wanted something real, something meaningful. That's when I met you, Maria, and fell in love. I knew I wanted a simple life with you, raising a family in a close-knit community. So I made a decision. I put most of the money into a trust to be used for good in our community. The scholarship that I hope Michael has received is part of that. But I also set aside a portion for our family's future. In the velvet pouch, you'll find the deed to a house, a beautiful place by the lake where I'd always dreamed we'd retire. And there are documents detailing the trust I've set up for Michael's education and future. I know this is a lot to take in. I'm sorry for keeping this from you, but I wanted you both to live authentic lives, unburdened by the weight of excessive wealth. I wanted Michael to grow up understanding the value of hard work and community. The photograph is from the day I sold my share of the company. I kept it as a reminder of where I came from and the path I chose. My darling Maria, my beloved son, please forgive me for any pain this secret may cause you. Know that you were always my greatest treasures, worth more than any amount of money. I love you both, always and forever. Robert." As Michael finished reading, the room fell silent. Maria felt as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. All these years, she'd struggled to make ends meet, worked long hours to provide for her son, and Robert had been wealthy? "Mom!" Michael's voice broke through her thoughts. He was holding out the velvet pouch, his face a mix of shock and concern. With shaking hands, Maria opened the pouch. Inside, she found the deed to a lakeside property she'd only dreamed of, and documents detailing a trust fund that would not only cover Michael's education but set him up for life. "I don't understand," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Why didn't he tell us? All these years?" Michael placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "He wanted us to have a normal life, Mom, to appreciate what really matters." As they sat there, surrounded by the remnants of Robert's secret life, Maria's mind whirled with memories. The way Robert had always seemed so content with their simple life, his insistence on community service, his constant reminders to Michael about the value of hard work and kindness. She picked up the framed photograph. In it, a younger Robert stood in front of a sleek office building, his smile wide but his eyes holding a hint of uncertainty. It was so different from the Robert she'd known, the man who'd been happiest in faded jeans, coaching Little League on weekends. "What do we do now?" Michael asked, his voice small in the quiet room. Maria took a deep breath, squeezing her son's hand. "We honor your father's wishes, Mijo. We use this gift to do good, just as he did. And we remember that our greatest wealth has always been our love for each other." As they gathered the items to leave, Both Maria and Michael felt the weight of Robert's legacy settling upon them. It was a legacy not just of financial security, but of values, of the importance of community, and of the power of living an authentic life. Stepping out of the bank into the bright sunlight, they knew their lives would never be the same. But as they faced this new future together, they carried with them the most precious gift Robert had left them: the understanding that true richness comes from how we live, not what we own. The drive home from the bank was silent, both Maria and Michael lost in their own thoughts. The weight of Robert's revelation hung heavy in the air, a mix of shock, confusion, and a strange sense of wonder. As they pulled into the driveway of their modest apartment complex, Maria couldn't help but think about the lakeside house that was now, apparently, theirs. Once inside, they spread the contents of the safety deposit box on the kitchen table. The deed to the house, the trust fund documents, Robert's letter, and the photograph seemed to stare back at them, challenging everything they thought they knew about their life. "I just can't wrap my head around it," Michael said, breaking the silence. He picked up the photograph, studying his father's face. All this time, Dad was... what? A secret millionaire. Maria sank into a chair, her fingers tracing the edges of Robert's letter. "I knew your father was special, Mijo, but this is beyond anything I could have imagined." As the afternoon wore on, they pored over the documents, trying to piece together the full extent of Robert's secret. The trust fund was substantial, more than enough to cover Michael's education and set him up comfortably for life. The lakeside property turned out to be a beautiful 3-bedroom house with a private dock, located just an hour outside of town. But it was the details of the community trust that truly took their breath away. Over the years, Robert's initial investment had grown significantly, funding not just the scholarship Michael had received, but also contributing to local healthcare initiatives, small business grants, and educational programs throughout Millbrook. "Mom," Michael said, his voice filled with awe, "Dad's been taking care of the whole town all this time, and nobody knew." Maria nodded, a mix of pride and lingering disbelief washing over her. "That was your father, always thinking of others, always trying to make the world a little better." As evening approached, a knock at the door startled them both. Maria opened it to find Coach Martinez standing there, looking uncomfortable. "Evening, Maria, Michael," he said, shuffling his feet. I thought you might have some questions after yesterday. Mind if I come in?" They ushered him into the living room, an awkward silence falling over the group. Finally, Michael spoke up. "You knew, didn't you, Coach? About Dad? About all of this?" Coach Martinez sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I did. Robert and I were old friends, went to high school together. When he came back to Millbrook after making it big, he swore me to secrecy. Said he wanted to live a normal life, do good without any fuss." He leaned forward, his eyes earnest. "Your father was one of the best men I've ever known. He could have lived like a king, but instead, he chose to pour his wealth back into this community, to raise you, Michael, with strong values and a good heart." As Coach Martinez shared stories of Robert's secret philanthropy, the anonymous donations to the school, the quietly paid medical bills for families in need, Maria felt a swell of emotions. Pride in the man she'd married, love for his generous spirit, but also a twinge of hurt that he'd kept so much from her. "I just wish he'd told me," she said softly. "We could have faced this together." Coach Martinez reached out, patting her hand gently. "He wanted to, Maria, so many times, but he was afraid it would change things, change you. He loved the life you built together, loved it for its simplicity and authenticity." As the coach left, promising to be there if they needed anything, Maria and Michael found themselves grappling with a new understanding of their past and an uncertain vision of their future. "What do we do now, Mom?" Michael asked, his voice a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Do we move to the lake house? Do I still go to state? Or should I be looking at other schools now?" Maria took a deep breath, centering herself. "I think, Mijo, we need to take this one step at a time. Your father left us more than just money and property. He left us a legacy of kindness and community. We need to honor that. Over the next few days, Maria and Michael began the process of adjusting to their new reality. They visited the lake house, standing in awe of its beauty and the thoughtfulness Robert had put into choosing it. They met with financial advisors to understand the full scope of the trust fund and their new responsibilities. But more importantly, they began to have deep conversations about what this all meant for their future. Michael, inspired by his father's secret generosity, started to rethink his career plans. "I still want to play basketball, Mom," he said one evening as they sat on the apartment balcony, watching the sunset. "But I'm thinking maybe I should study business or nonprofit management. I want to continue Dad's work, to use this money to help people." Maria felt a surge of pride. "Your father would be so proud of you, Mijo, and so am I." As for Maria, she struggled with the idea of leaving her job as a janitor. It had been her anchor for so long, a symbol of her dedication to providing for her son. But as she thought about Robert's letter, about his desire for them to live authentic lives, she began to see new possibilities. "Maybe," she mused aloud, "I could start a scholarship program for the children of school support staff, or set up a fund to help single parents in our community." The more they talked, the more Maria and Michael realized that Robert's legacy wasn't just about the money or the property. It was about the values he'd instilled in them, the love for their community, and the desire to make a difference in the world. As the summer progressed, they began to make plans. They decided to keep the apartment for now, not wanting to rush into big changes. Michael confirmed his enrollment at State University, but with a new focus on business and social entrepreneurship alongside his basketball. Maria, with the support of Principal Thompson, began to develop a program to provide additional resources and opportunities for the school's maintenance and cafeteria staff and their families. And together, they started a small, anonymous foundation in Robert's name, dedicated to continuing his work of quiet, impactful philanthropy in Millbrook. One warm evening, as they sat on the dock at the lake house, feet dangling in the cool water, Michael turned to his mother. "You know, Mom, I've been thinking about Dad's note, about how true wealth isn't measured in dollars." Maria nodded, watching the setting sun paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "What about it, Mijo?" Michael smiled, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I think I understand now. We were always rich, Mom. Rich in love, in community, in the values Dad taught us. This money, this house, they're just tools to spread that wealth to others." Maria pulled her son close, her heart full of love and gratitude. As they sat there, watching the day fade into night, she felt Robert's presence all around them, in the gentle lap of the waves, in the rustling of the trees, in the love between mother and son. She realized that while Robert's secret had changed their lives in many ways, it hadn't changed what truly mattered. They were still the same people, with the same values and the same love for each other and their community. Now, they just had more resources to act on those values, to spread that love wider. As stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Maria whispered a quiet thank you to Robert, wherever he was, for this final, incredible gift, not just of financial security, but of purpose, of a legacy to uphold and expand. The journey ahead would not be without its challenges, but Maria knew that together, she and Michael would navigate this new chapter of their lives with the same strength, love, and integrity that had always defined their family. Robert's secret had unlocked not just wealth, but a world of possibilities for making a difference, for living lives of meaning and impact. And in that moment, under the vast expanse of the star-studded sky, Maria felt a peace settle over her. Whatever the future held, they would face it together, guided by the love and values that Robert had instilled in them, the true wealth that no amount of money could ever match. As summer faded into autumn, Maria and Michael settled into a new routine that balanced their old life with the opportunities afforded by Robert's legacy. The leaves on the trees surrounding their lake house turned brilliant shades of red and gold, mirroring the warmth and richness that had entered their lives. One crisp Saturday morning, Maria stood in the kitchen of their apartment, sipping coffee and gazing out the window. The familiar view of the parking lot and neighboring buildings now held a different meaning. It was no longer a symbol of their limitations, but a reminder of where they'd come from and the community they were committed to serving. "Mom," Michael's voice broke through her reverie. He was dressed in his basketball gear, ready for an early morning practice at State University. "I've been thinking about something." Maria turned, taking in the sight of her son. At 18, he stood tall and confident, but there was a thoughtfulness in his eyes that reminded her so much of Robert. "What is it, Mijo?" Michael hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I want to tell Coach Martinez about the scholarship program we're setting up for the maintenance staff's kids. I think he could help us reach more people who really need it." Maria nodded slowly, considering. They had been careful about who they told about their change in circumstances, wanting to honor Robert's desire for privacy. But Coach Martinez already knew, and his connections in the community could be invaluable. "I think that's a wonderful idea, Michael," she said with a smile. "Your father always said Coach was one of the most trustworthy people he knew." As Michael headed out for practice, promising to speak with Coach Martinez, Maria felt a surge of pride. Her son was embracing his new role with maturity and compassion, always thinking of ways to extend their good fortune to others. Later that afternoon, Maria found herself back at Millbrook High School. But this time, instead of pushing a mop and bucket, she was seated across from Principal Thompson in her office, discussing the details of the new scholarship program. "Maria, this is truly remarkable," Principal Thompson said, her eyes wide as she looked over the proposal. "This will change lives." Maria felt a blush creep up her cheeks. It was still strange to be on this side of things, to be the one offering help rather than needing it. "It's what Robert would have wanted," she said softly. "And it's a way for me to give back to a community that's given us so much." As they ironed out the details, Maria couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. Just a few months ago, she had been secretly polishing her son's trophy in these very halls. Now, she was helping to create opportunities for families like hers, families who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to keep the school running. Meanwhile, across town at State University, Michael was deep in conversation with Coach Martinez. They sat in the empty bleachers of the basketball court, the rhythmic bounce of balls and squeak of sneakers echoing in the background as other players practiced. "Your old man would be mighty proud of you, son," Coach Martinez said, his voice gruff with emotion. "This program you and your mom are setting up, it's going to make a real difference." Michael nodded, his eyes fixed on the court. "I just keep thinking about how hard Mom worked all those years, how hard all the maintenance staff work. They deserve a chance to see their kids succeed too." Coach Martinez clapped a hand on Michael's shoulder. "And thanks to you and your mom, they'll get that chance. Now let me make some calls. I know a few folks who might be interested in contributing to the program." As the day wore on, Maria and Michael's separate efforts began to weave together into something larger. Coach Martinez's contacts in the local business community expressed interest in supporting the scholarship program. Principal Thompson suggested expanding it to include mentorship opportunities. By the time they reunited for dinner at their apartment that evening, both Maria and Michael were buzzing with excitement and new ideas. "Mom, you won't believe what happened," Michael exclaimed as he burst through the door. "Coach Martinez talked to some of his old teammates who've done well for themselves. They want to contribute to the scholarship fund." Maria beamed, setting down the dish she'd been preparing. "That's wonderful, Mijo. And wait until you hear about the mentorship program Principal Thompson suggested." As they shared their news over dinner, Maria felt a warmth spreading through her chest. This was so much more than just giving away money. They were building connections, strengthening their community in ways that would have far-reaching effects. Later that night, as Maria prepared for bed, she found herself drawn to the small box where she kept her most precious mementos. Inside, nestled among old photographs and Michael's baby teeth, was her wedding ring. She hadn't worn it since Robert's passing, the sight of it too painful a reminder of what she'd lost. But tonight, she slipped it onto her finger, the familiar weight both comforting and bittersweet. "Oh, Robert," she whispered to the quiet room, "I wish you could see this. See how your love continues to change lives." As she drifted off to sleep, the moonlight catching the simple gold band on her finger, Maria felt a sense of peace wash over her. They were on the right path, honoring Robert's memory in the best way possible, by living with purpose, spreading kindness, and strengthening the community he had loved so much. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Maria and Michael, with the help of Coach Martinez and Principal Thompson, began to shape their ideas into concrete plans. They set up meetings with lawyers to establish the official framework for their foundation, consulted with financial advisors to ensure long-term sustainability, and reached out to community leaders to identify areas of greatest need. Through it all, they remained grounded in the values Robert had instilled in them. They continued to live in their apartment, drive their old car, and maintain the routines that had defined their lives for so long. The lake house became a weekend retreat, a place for reflection and family time. As autumn deepened, bringing with it a chill in the air and the promise of winter, Maria and Michael stood on the shore of the lake, watching the sun set on another day. The trees, now mostly bare, stood stark against the colorful sky. "You know, Mom," Michael said, his breath visible in the cool air, "I used to think Dad's biggest gift to me was teaching me basketball, but now I see it was so much more. He taught us how to live, how to give, how to make a real difference." Maria nodded, linking her arm through her son's. "Your father was a wise man, Mijo. He knew that the true measure of a person isn't in what they have, but in what they give." As they turned to head back to the house, the last rays of sunlight glinting off the lake, Maria felt a profound sense of gratitude. Robert's secret had unlocked not just wealth, but a world of possibilities for making a difference, for living lives of meaning and impact. And as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Maria knew that this was just the beginning. The legacy Robert had left them was not just in the money or the property, but in the values he'd instilled and the love he'd shared. It was a legacy they would continue to build upon, one act of kindness at a time, enriching their community and honoring the memory of the man who had given them so much. In the quiet of the autumn evening, with the gentle lap of waves on the shore and the rustle of leaves in the wind, Maria and Michael stood together, ready to face whatever challenges and opportunities the future might bring. United by love, guided by Robert's example, and empowered by the resources he'd left them, they were prepared to write the next chapter of their story, a story of hope, generosity, and the enduring power of family. As winter descended upon Millbrook, blanketing the town in a soft layer of snow, the impact of Maria and Michael's efforts began to take root. The scholarship program for the children of school maintenance staff was officially launched, with the first round of recipients to be announced in the spring. The news spread through the community like wildfire, bringing hope to families who had long struggled to envision a college education for their children. One frosty December morning, Maria found herself back in the halls of Millbrook High School. This time, she wasn't there to clean, but to meet with the maintenance staff about the scholarship program. As she walked through the familiar corridors, memories flooded back of long nights spent polishing floors, of quiet moments stolen to watch Michael's basketball games through the gym doors, of the countless times she'd passed Robert's old office, never knowing the secrets it held. In the staff break room, Maria stood before her former colleagues, a mix of nerves and excitement fluttering in her stomach. Faces she knew so well: Jorge from the grounds crew, Lucinda from the cafeteria, old Bill who'd been fixing things around the school since before Maria started. All looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and hope. "I know many of you are wondering why I've asked you here today," Maria began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "For years, we've worked side by side, keeping this school running. We've shared our dreams for our children, our worries about their futures. Today, I'm here to tell you that those futures just got a little brighter." As Maria explained the scholarship program, she watched emotions play across the faces before her: disbelief, joy, and in some cases, tears. When she finished speaking, the room erupted in a cacophony of questions, thank yous, and exclamations of disbelief. Lucinda, her gray hair escaping from its usual tight bun, pushed to the front of the group. "Maria, honey, how is this possible? It's a miracle." Maria smiled, thinking of Robert. "It's not a miracle, Lucinda. It's the result of hard work, love, and a desire to give back to a community that has given us so much. As the meeting wound down and her former co-workers filed out, each stopping to hug her or shake her hand, Maria felt a profound sense of fulfillment. This was what Robert had wanted, not recognition or acclaim, but the quiet joy of making a difference in people's lives. Meanwhile, across town at State University, Michael was facing challenges of his own. Despite his newfound wealth, he had insisted on living in the dorms like any other freshman, wanting to fully immerse himself in the college experience. But as news of the scholarship program spread, whispers began to follow him through the halls. "Hey, Gonzalez!" A voice called out as Michael left his business ethics class. He turned to see Travis, a fellow basketball player, jogging to catch up with him. "Is it true what they're saying? That your family's loaded and you're giving away scholarships now?" Michael hesitated, remembering his father's desire for privacy. But he also recalled the conversations he'd had with his mother about honesty and using their position to inspire others. "It's complicated," he said finally. "But yeah, my family started a scholarship program back in Millbrook." Travis whistled low. "Man, that's wild. Most people who come into money like that, they'd be buying fancy cars or partying it up. But you're still here, living in the dorms, going to class like the rest of us chumps." Michael shrugged, a small smile playing on his lips. "Money doesn't change who you are, Travis. It just gives you more opportunities to be who you've always been." As they walked to basketball practice together, Michael found himself opening up about his father's legacy, about the importance of community and giving back. To his surprise, Travis listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about the scholarship program and how it was structured. "You know," Travis said as they reached the gym, "my little sister's real smart, but our folks are struggling to put me through college. Something like your program could really change things for her." Michael felt a surge of inspiration. "Maybe we could start something similar here at State. A student-run scholarship fund or mentoring program for kids from struggling families." Travis's eyes lit up. "Yeah, man. I bet Coach and some of the other guys on the team would be into that. We could use our platform as athletes to really make a difference." As they joined their teammates on the court, Michael's mind raced with possibilities. He couldn't wait to talk to his mom about this new idea. That evening, as snow fell softly outside, Maria and Michael sat in their cozy apartment, sharing the events of their day over steaming mugs of hot chocolate. The Christmas tree twinkled in the corner, a poignant reminder of their first holiday season without Robert, but also a symbol of the new light they were bringing into the world. "Oh, Mijo," Maria said, her eyes shining as Michael described his conversation with Travis and the idea for a student-run scholarship program. "Your father would be so proud of you. You're not just continuing his legacy, you're expanding it in ways even he might not have imagined." Michael ducked his head, a mix of pride and embarrassment coloring his cheeks. "I just keep thinking about what Dad wrote in his letter, about true wealth being measured by the lives we touch. I want to touch as many lives as I can, Mom." Maria reached across the table, squeezing her son's hand. "And you will, my love. We both will." As they continued to talk late into the night, their conversation ranging from the practical details of setting up the new program to their hopes and dreams for the future, Maria felt a sense of peace settle over her. The pain of losing Robert would never fully fade, but it had been tempered by the joy of carrying on his work, of seeing his values live on through their actions. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering Millbrook in a pristine white blanket. But beneath that quiet surface, seeds of change were taking root, in the hopes of the maintenance staff's children, in the inspired minds of Michael's classmates, in the strengthening bonds of a community coming together to lift each other up. As Maria finally bid Michael goodnight and retired to her room, she paused by the window, looking out at the moonlit snow. She fingered the wedding ring she now wore again, a silent connection to Robert. "We're doing it, my love," she whispered to the quiet night. "We're making your dreams come true, and then some. I hope you can see us wherever you are. I hope you're proud." And as she drifted off to sleep, Maria could almost hear Robert's warm laugh, could almost feel his arms around her. In her dreams, he was there, smiling that smile she loved so much, his eyes twinkling with pride and love for the family he'd left behind. a family that was now growing to encompass an entire community. As spring blossomed in Millbrook, bringing with it a renewal of life and hope, the true impact of Robert's legacy began to unfold in ways that neither Maria nor Michael could have anticipated. The day of the scholarship announcement arrived, crisp and bright. Millbrook High's auditorium was packed with students, parents, and staff, all buzzing with anticipation. Maria sat in the front row, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and nerves. Michael, home for the weekend from State University, sat beside her, squeezing her hand reassuringly. Principal Thompson took the stage, her face beaming with pride. "Today," she began, "we're not just announcing scholarships. We're celebrating the spirit of our community, the power of generosity, and the endless potential of our young people." As the names of the scholarship recipients were called out, one by one, Maria felt tears welling in her eyes. She watched as Jorge's daughter, Ana, walked across the stage, her eyes shining with disbelief and joy. Lucinda's grandson, Marcus, followed, his chest puffed out with pride. Each student represented a dream realized, a future brightened. But it was the last name called that caught everyone by surprise. And finally, Principal Thompson announced, her voice filled with emotion, "A special scholarship has been awarded in honor of Robert Gonzalez, to a student who exemplifies the values of hard work, kindness, and community service. This year's recipient is Emily Martinez." A gasp went through the crowd as a petite girl with long dark hair made her way to the stage. Maria turned to Michael in confusion, only to see him grinning widely. "That's Travis's little sister," he whispered. "Remember I told you about her? I nominated her for the scholarship, but I had no idea she'd won." As Emily accepted her certificate, her eyes scanning the crowd until they locked with Michael's, Maria felt a surge of pride. Her son wasn't just continuing Robert's legacy. He was expanding it, reaching out beyond their immediate community to touch lives they'd never even met. The ceremony concluded with thunderous applause, the auditorium alive with the energy of dreams taking flight. As people began to file out, Maria found herself surrounded by well-wishers, parents with tears in their eyes thanking her for the opportunity she'd given their children. Amidst the crowd, Maria spotted a familiar face, Coach Martinez, making his way towards them with a woman she didn't recognize. "Maria, Michael," the coach said, his voice gruff with emotion. "There's someone I'd like you to meet. This is Sandra Thompson, no relation to our principal," he added with a chuckle. She was Robert's business partner back in the day. Maria felt her breath catch in her throat as she shook Sandra's hand. Here was someone who had known a side of Robert she'd never seen. "It's an honor to meet you both," Sandra said, her eyes twinkling. "Robert talked about you all the time, you know. He was so proud of the life he'd built here." As the auditorium emptied, Sandra shared stories of the early days of the tech startup, of Robert's brilliant ideas and his unwavering integrity. "Even when we struck it big," she said, "Robert never lost sight of what really mattered. He was always talking about using our success to make a difference." Michael leaned in, eager to hear more about this side of his father. "Is that why he decided to come back to Millbrook?" he asked. Sandra nodded, a wistful smile on her face. "Partly, but mostly it was because of you too. He said he'd found real wealth the day he met your mother, and that it had doubled the day you were born, Michael." As they talked, Maria felt a complex mix of emotions washing over her. There was still a twinge of hurt that Robert had kept this part of his life secret from her, but it was overshadowed by a deep sense of love and gratitude for the man she'd married, for the life they'd built together, and for the legacy he'd left behind. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Emily Martinez, her scholarship certificate clutched tightly in her hands. "Mr. Gonzalez?" she said shyly, looking at Michael. "I just wanted to say thank you. This scholarship, it means everything to my family." Michael smiled warmly, introducing Emily to his mother and Sandra. As they chatted, Maria couldn't help but see the spark of inspiration in Emily's eyes, the same spark she'd seen in Michael when he talked about his plans for the future. Later that evening, as Maria and Michael walked along the lake shore, the setting sun painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink, They reflected on the day's events. "You know, Mom," Michael said, skipping a stone across the calm surface of the water. "I think I finally understand why Dad did what he did, why he kept his wealth a secret, why he chose to live the way we did." Maria looked at her son, seeing in him the best of Robert, his kindness, his integrity, his desire to make a difference. "And why is that, Mijo?" Michael turned to her, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "Because the real treasure was never in his bank account. It was in the lives he touched, the community he helped build. It was in the love he had for us, and the values he taught me. That's the real legacy he left behind." Maria felt her heart swell with pride and love. She pulled Michael into a tight embrace, feeling the strength of the young man he'd become. Over his shoulder, she gazed out at the lake, remembering all the dreams she and Robert had shared on nights like this. "Your father would be so proud of you, Michael," she whispered. "So proud of the man you've become, of the way you're using his gift to help others." As they stood there, the last rays of sunlight glinting off the water, Maria felt a sense of peace wash over her. Robert's secret had changed their lives in ways she could never have imagined, but it hadn't changed who they were at their core. If anything, it had given them the means to more fully become the people Robert had always believed they could be. The journey ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges and opportunities. There would be more lives to touch, more dreams to nurture, more ways to honor Robert's memory. But as Maria looked at her son, she knew they were ready to face whatever the future might hold. Together, they were writing a new chapter in the Gonzalez family story, a chapter filled with hope, generosity, and the enduring power of love. And somewhere, Maria was sure, Robert was watching over them, his heart full of pride and joy at the beautiful legacy his family was creating. As the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Maria and Michael turned back towards the lake house, arm in arm, ready to face the future and all the possibilities it held. The secret that had once seemed so monumental had become just one part of a much larger story, a story of family, of community, and of the profound impact that one person's love and generosity could have on the world. Thank you for listening until the end. Share your opinion about the story in the comments and let us know which character you liked the most. If this story touched you and you want to hear more, click on the next story appearing on your screen. Leave a like and subscribe to our channel so we can build a great community of people who share emotional stories together. Until the next story.